He's a political advisor from his Facebook page. So that was new information for me. But a very intelligent brother and very talented. Please bring up Brother Azizi Jasper.
Yeah.
Salam. This is beautiful. Such an honor to be on the stage and share the stage with somebody who I legitimately consider to be the greatest living man on the planet outside of my father. Please excuse me for reading this, I only finished this today. Generalizations of a generation via future hindsight if we don't save it. My generation was filled with rebels whose only cause was rebellion. So many causes went neglected and fell into oblivion. And opinionated people with miseducated opinions, a domesticated people convinced they have no dominion. My generation was filled with men and women that sought the truth with their eyes closed. Fishing for religion in waters too shallow for God to flow, yet it was deep enough for my generation to drown in. My generation was filled with politicians that manipulated politics, capitalists that participated in politics, so my generation was filled with politicians that were capitalists. My generation's politics were capitalism. My generation occupied Wall Street. But my generation also occupied Walmart. And those that occupied failed to laser in on one single problem, so the beam didn't remove my generation's tumors, it only shed light. My generation destroyed the environment. Then my generation became environmentalist. My generation hated poverty, but my generation was disproportionately poor. My generation hated poverty, but not as much as it hated its poor, because my generation kept its poor impoverished. My generation allowed Dr. King's legacy to be summed up in 5 minutes worth of sound bites. My generation allowed 500 years of struggle to be summed up as Dr. King's legacy. My generation was full of social networkers, but my generation was socially awkward. My generation was on the computer all of the time, but my generation was still overwhelmingly illiterate. My generation fought to use the word nigger. My generation was ignorant. My generation didn't take care of its kids. My generation's kids were kids when they had kids. My generation called this woman out of her name. My generation was filled with a bunch of My generation was filled with a bunch of numbers, no names. My generation neglected its sisters. My generation feared its brothers. My generation locked its brothers in its prisons. My generation made prison an industry. Thus, my generation gave those that filled its prisons an incentive. My generation had a fear of countries that never attacked us. My generation caused turmoil. My generation backed rebels without a cause. My generation's cause was oil. My generation raped Palestine. My generation didn't see it on TV, so my generation didn't know because my generation didn't read. My generation overthrew Mubarak. They killed Gaddafi. My generation meddled in the Middle East. Then Egypt and Libya and Palestine, now Syria, became more violent than my generation had ever seen. My generation's music was digital, even when it was acoustic. My generation's cameras were excessive and its talent was elusive. My generation thought that TV was reality. My generation lived vicariously. My generation was cellular, and my generation cloned its meat. My generation gave dogs and cats immunity, but swine and cows were better known as pork and beef. My generation gave itself cancer. My generation damaged its health. My generation made healthcare expensive. My generation equated life with wealth. My generation was pregnant with potential. My generation aborted itself. Generalizations of a generation via future hindsight if we don't save it.
That's my cut. Yeah. Yeah.